It's the CXM Experience, and as always, I'm your host, Grad Khan, CXO, Chief Experience Officer at Sprinklr. We are continuing to talk about Super Bowl ads. Yep, that's kind of our week. Super Bowl. I've talked a little bit about, how it feels as a naturalized American to be part of the Super Bowl. It's just such a great part of what it means to be America. And I will say, I do find myself often in situations where I'm going on and waxing eloquently about the amazingness of America, and Americans look at me like, what? And I think part of what makes the country great is this constant restlessness, this constant, like, are we slipping? We got to make it great again. And it's like, it's not as good as it used to be. And this continual desire to be better all the time. And there's some really good examples of this in this year's Super Bowl advertising. So I'm going to start with a really unusually fascinating and unusually awesome ad from, of all people, General Motors. And I got to say, that entire sentence structure is not something I ever thought would ever come out of my mouth in my lifetime. But General Motors managed to put together, I think, one of the best, most entertaining, and funniest ads of the Super Bowl. And interestingly, it's had a life of its own beyond the Super Bowl. And we'll talk about that in 1 second. So if you hadn't had a chance to see it, Will Ferrell, sort of at home, bearded and very shaggy looking, he somehow finds out, and he's just kind of in his garage he kind of looks a little bit like he's got the maps with like the lines and the strings on them, kind of like how, people are when they're serial killers. So he's in his garage and he finds out that Norway produces more electric cars per capita than the United States, and all hell breaks loose in this GM ad. And so, in fact, the reality of it is that for the first time, and Norway is the first to sell more electric cars in a year than gas-powered cars, which is kind of amazing. Very cool. And so anyway, so Will Ferrell finds this out that, America's not number one, and he's like, I'm got to go to Norway and find out more. And he enlists the help of a couple other people, and off they go to Norway. And it's a great ad. I don't want to ruin it by sort of telling everyone that's in it, but you got to watch it. Super amusing, super fun. And Will Ferrell, I think, is in rare, excellent form. I mean, I'm a huge Will Ferrell fan. Apparently he's a little polarizing, but I've loved everything he's ever done, and find him extremely watchable. What's super interesting about this ad, what makes it really engaging, is that there has been a response from Norway. And that's actually kind of interesting because, I have been sort of somewhat critical of the Super Bowl ads for not being engaged enough in the second screen and feeling like they're a little hollow. They're just, like kind of entertainment pieces, but not something that was generating a tremendous amount of social conversation beyond what we're doing right now, which is, just to talk about them in general. But in fact, a number of different companies in Norway have responded to the Will Ferrell GM ad, including a 2-minute, really great video by a university in Norway. And basically the university sort of provost, I guess, goes through a litany of other things that are super awesome about Norway that they hope that Will Ferrell doesn't also find out about. For example, free tuition, free healthcare, paid pregnancy leave, the usual. And so, and this is kind of a very funny sort of Norwegian response, which is, we're an amazingly awesome country, and you Americans, are a bunch of garbage. And I think actually this is sort of like, for me, a little bit of the difference between the two countries, which is America's always restless. Per capita, Norway may exceed America on electric vehicles, but there's like 4 people that live in Norway. So in total, America vastly overwhelms the rest of the world in terms of the number of electric vehicles sold. But it's kind of funny because America's got this like constant restlessness. Like, we got to be number one. We got to be bigger. We got to be better. We got to be stronger. We got to be faster. We got to be. Whereas Norway and some European countries have this sense of sort of smug self-satisfaction. And I think that's kind of an interesting contrast between the psychologies of the countries. And I will note that Norway has the highest suicide rate of any country in the world. So, take that for whatever it's worth in terms of how awesome a country Norway is. So that is the Will Ferrell GM ad. And I hope my listeners in Norway aren't overly offended, but potentially they are. And good news, I have no listeners in Norway. So let's go on to the next ad. And I want to talk a little bit about something I found quite inspiring. I mean, this ad, when I saw it, sort of made me cry, and was, I think, an ad that kind of appealed to people on a different level. And it's interestingly because it was from Toyota, and I would say that I don't know if I remembered the ad as a Toyota ad, and so I don't really want to be super critical, but I'm just going to sort of put it out there that this is a fantastic piece of cinema, a fantastic piece of communication, potentially not a fantastic piece of advertising, although ... we are talking about it right now, and we're talking about Toyota. So, it's always hard to tell sometimes. But Jessica Long is a swimmer on the U.S. swim team. She was born with a birth condition that required that her two legs be amputated below the knee at a certain age. Very compelling, obviously, really, really tough story, but an inspiring story because she's become this world-class swimmer. What's even more inspiring is that she was adopted. And so the way the commercial starts is that there is a call to her about to be adoptive parents, and they are told that she's got this condition, and they obviously have the option of backing out, and they say, hey, we're gonna love this person and bring her to a great life, and then they support her and help her achieve something that few others can. And it's just such an inspiring story. And as a parent, you give so much to your children, and you give so much of yourself to your children, and you sacrifice so much for your kids that you always love seeing other people doing that as well. And it's just a really, really, really well-produced, beautiful ad that I also think does a very nice job of normalizing the amputations and just making it just feel like humans. And I love that kind of stuff. So great job by Toyota. I don't know if it's a great ad, but I really, really, really glad that you did that ad. And I got a lot of emotional satisfaction out of it. And thanks. So now let's move on to the last part of our series, which is the Paramount Plus campaign. So a little bit of background, just so you know what's going on. So CBS All Access, which is an app that was launched about 2 years ago. It was basically launched in sort of coincident with the launch of Star Trek Discovery, the new Star Trek series, which, again, I love Star Trek Discovery, just absolutely love it. And it is deeply and much derided by many others in the community. So I don't know. I'm not sure if when I love something, it means it's not going to be liked, but I do love things that are popular. So I don't know what the story is, but it is a fantastic series. Anyway, so CBS All Access is basically the app that gives you access to all the CBS shows. And starting March 4th, CBS, which is owned by Paramount, is going to be rebranded from CBS All Access to Paramount Plus, kind of, somewhat echoing or mimicking the Disney Plus launch, which was, as we know, extremely successful. And it will include BET, it'll include CBS, it'll include all the Paramount libraries, it'll be a Nickelodeon's part of it, so it'll be a tremendous amount of stuff. And what they did is they put together a pretty clever campaign. So the Paramount logo, as you know, is the mountain. And if you've ever seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, the original Indiana Jones movie, it's one of my favorite openings because they start with the Paramount logo. It's a Paramount movie. And then the Paramount logo fades out to the shape of a mountain in South America where Indiana Jones is moving towards to find an idol in one of the graves. And if you've not seen the movie in a long time, check out that opening again. It's incredibly subtle, but A beautiful move by Steven Spielberg. Anyway, so Paramount Plus is kind of launching, and what they did is they did a really clever job over a number of different ads in the Super Bowl of having different characters from different series, like Snooki, and they had Beavis and Butthead, and they had all sorts of different people. They had Commander from Discovery. They had Picard, and it was like Jean-Luc Picard was great. It was awesome, and they basically are climbing Mount Paramount. And when they get to the top, they all have drinks and do a little bit of a dance with Jean-Luc. So check that out. I think did a nice job of landing Paramount Plus. It was an advantage in that it was CBS that was carrying the game. I actually watched the game on CBS All Access, so I watched it on an app on Apple TV, over internet connection. So I'm kind of cable cutter. And I'm super clear. Like March 4th, like I get it. It's going to change, and I know what's on there. And I'm actually relating all this stuff to you right now without reading anything. This is just the impression the commercial made on me that I'm giving you right now. So that's not bad. So Beavis and Butthead tells me Comedy Central is part of it too. See how they've done a nice sort of connection there. And so check it out, Paramount Plus. Nice job, everybody. And I think I'm going to wrap for today. I've got some other stuff I want to talk about. So I think this is going to be the end of our Super Bowl commercial festival. I've really enjoyed it, but it is kind of weird that as the week wears on and the Super Bowl fades, it becomes almost less and less relevant, which would tell me that, again, that second screen experience would have been really good to have because the tail on this thing is kind of short. Anyway, that's it for today. For the CXM Experience, I'm Grad Conn, and I'll see you. I'll see you next time.